Our justice correspondent, Pete Williams, is standing by. Pete, we know that the Deputy Attorney General has been summoned to the White House. What more do we know?
Well, here's what we're told. The White House is saying that he is coming to the White House to resign. What we're hearing, in fact, from the Justice Department is that he has been summoned to the White House and that if he's asked to resign, he will refuse to do so. And that what he's prepared to do is to tell the Chief of Staff, John Kelly, with the person with whom he is presumably meeting, that if the president wants him out, the president will have to fire him, which, of course, the president has the authority to do. So will this meeting result in one way or the other Rod Rosenstein being out? Will it be a standoff, nothing will happen, or what? It would appear that the president wants Rod Rosenstein out one way or the other, and that if he won't quit, it does sound like the White House is prepared to fire him, but we just don't know how that's going to go. Now, it's, as we've been saying here, Craig, it's more than just a senior official at the Justice Department, which is unusual and newsworthy and important in and of itself. But Rod Rosenstein, because Jeff Sessions is recused, Rod Rosenstein is the person running the Russia investigation, supervising the investigation. He's the person that approves all the major moves by Robert Mueller. He's the person to whom Mueller would issue a report, and then the Deputy Attorney General would make a decision on whether to further that report to Congress, public, and so forth. So the person in that job is pivotal to the future of the Russia investigation. If Rosenstein is out, then there's a question about who would take over supervising the Russia investigation. And I think there are several options. One of them is that Noel Francisco, who is currently the Solicitor General, that's the government's top courthouse lawyer, the person who oversees basically all the government's litigating in court, especially in the appeals courts and the Supreme Court, whether he would take over. He's a person who's been in private practice and really enjoys the job of Solicitor General. I think he would be a reluctant soldier if he was drafted for that job. Or would someone else take the day-to-day overseeing of the deputy's job, and someone else would oversee the Russia investigation? To be determined, because we've never been in this situation before. We've had very few special counsels in our history since the end of the independent counsel law, and we've never had a situation like this. So they would be feeling their way through this. But this is an important moment, a crucial moment in the history of the Russia investigation. And, you know, what we're going to have here is, in just another 2 months, we're going to have an entirely new set of leaders at the Justice Department, appears. A new deputy, and my guess would be that Jeff Sessions would be out after the midterm elections. It certainly appears that that's his expectation. And all of this happening as the White House is treading on eggshells, deciding what to do about Brett Kavanaugh. I must say, this surprises me, that the White House is willing to break all this china as that we're in this critical moment with the Kavanaugh nomination, given the importance that the president has put on the fact that he can get his nominees on the Supreme Court. So it's all these things coming together. There are a lot of vectors pointing in one direction here.
I rarely hear Williams say that there's something that surprises him, so that's noteworthy. To be clear here, Pete, for folks who might just be watching us top of the hour, might just be joining us on Sirius Radio, the reporting here is that, according to the White House, the Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, according to the White House, he's coming to resign. Other sources close to Rosenstein saying, I'm not going to resign. If they want me out, they're going to have to fire me. Is that an accurate summation?
Exactly right.
All right. Pete, do stand by for me if you can. I want to bring in Peter Baker with the New York Times here for a moment. And of course, it should be noted here that it was the Times reporting that perhaps, do we have Peter Baker? It sounded like we were dialing Peter Baker by telephone there. There's Mr. Baker. Peter, what more do we know at this hour here? 5 after 11, Rod Rosenstein at the White House. President Trump here in New York City reports that Rod Rosenstein is out.
Yeah, this is a culmination, obviously, of months and months and months of tension. But advisors to the president had told him that it would be better for him not to push out Rod Rosenstein right away. That, in fact, if he was going to do it as a result of this report about discussing secret tapes and the 25th Amendment, that he should wait until after the midterm election, not to create another big furor in the middle of this campaign season. But obviously, it looks like the president is moving the other direction. He told Geraldo Rivera yesterday in a radio interview in Cleveland that this was on the table. He said, I don't have all the facts, but once I know the facts, I want to make a determination. That made it sound like he was kind of pushing off the decision until November. But suddenly here we are at a head. And it may be that it's just simply untenable for Rod Rosenstein to continue, but it will absolutely inflame the situation because, of course, he's the one who runs or oversees the Robert Mueller special counsel investigation.
Pete, are you still with me?
Yes, I am.
The practical effect here, Rod Rosenstein out. What does that then mean for the day-to-day oversight of the Russia investigation, or do we just not know yet?
Well, it doesn't end the Russia investigation at all. The appointment of Robert Mueller is still legitimate. Of course, the Deputy Attorney General, could fire Robert Mueller. Remember, that's sort of one of the interesting questions that's been going on throughout this thing. When the president had indicated he was so upset with the investigation early on that he might fire Mueller, and there was this legal question about whether the president could do that. It's an unresolved issue. But undisputably, under the special counsel regulations, the person who's overseeing him can fire Robert Mueller, although the special counsel regs say only for specific causes, not just because you believe it's a witch hunt. But in any event, that's the first thing. The second thing is the person supervising the Robert Mueller investigation approves all the big moves in the investigation. The budget has to be approved, which, of course, is the lifeblood of any investigation. The money that it takes to do it, receives this report, makes basically all the big decisions. And if you think about it, the major times there have been indictments in the Robert Mueller investigation, they've not been announced by Mueller, as you might have with a U.S. attorney or a special or a local prosecutor. They've been announced by Rod Rosenstein. So he's central to this whole thing. If somebody else comes in, life goes on for Mueller, but it could change. And, at the end game, the report that Mueller's going to write, if we assume, as I think is fairly widely assumed, that the special counsel is stuck with the Department of Justice regulations that say you can't indict a president, then the report becomes very important. If there's going to be no indictment, what does it say, and will we ever see it? Will it ever become public? Well, that's going to be the decision for the Deputy Attorney General under the special counsel regulations. So it's impossible to overstate the importance of the Deputy Attorney General to Robert Mueller's investigation. And, of course, in the day-to-day running of the Justice Department, it's the Deputy Attorney General who supervises basically the whole criminal side of the Justice Department. All the criminal investigators ultimately report to the deputy and then to the Attorney General.